Ready to go? Okay.
Great.
Okay. Well, hey everybody. Welcome to Steve Cooper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In each episode, we connect with seasoned investors and subject matter experts that are eager to share their stories, their experiences, and their tips for success in real estate investing. So today, I am super excited because for Steve Cooper's podcast number 18, I've got the profound pleasure of speaking with a real estate investor who started real estate investing back in 2016, I believe. But she co-owns a construction company that began in 2012, so a bit before that. She's focused or started focus in the Toronto area in multifamily, but is now branched out into St. John, New Brunswick, where she's working on multifamily BRRRRs and some land development deals that sound pretty exciting. She's intimately familiar with the challenges and thrills of being an entrepreneur, and she's currently operating, I think it's 130 units out in New Brunswick. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about that. She's the mother of two, and therefore passionate about helping families build wealth using real estate. I had the pleasure of seeing her on stage where she was helping us understand the role that mindset plays in real estate investing. And so I'm interested in discussing that further. Ladies and gentlemen, I am truly pleased to welcome fellow podcast host and friend Adriana Ostapenko to Steve Cooper's podcast. Adriana, I have way more questions than we have time, so this may need a second podcast to follow up. But before we get into any of those questions, did I get everything right?
That was beautifully said. Thank you. It's always so nice to hear somebody reading your bio. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining. So if we start off at the beginning and understanding how you started this journey, what is it, 8 years ago? You're now up to 130 doors. What was it that triggered your interest in real estate investing? What was it that drew you into this field initially?
Yeah, such a great question. What first brought me in was the need to create wealth for my family and my mom back in 2015 moved in with me. My husband and I owned a townhome in Mississauga here in Ontario, and we had two little babies. And my mom went through a mental health crisis issue and moved in with us. And we were living paycheck to paycheck at the time. We don't come from a background where we had financial literacy on investing and growing wealth. And when she moved in, I felt this responsibility to be like, wow, like how am I, what do I need to do here to not just
Mhm.
provide for my immediate family and my kids, but also create wealth that's going to overflow into, our parents, our moms as immigrants to the country. Um, she was a single mom, brought my sister and I to Canada from Brazil, and I knew there was, it was my job to now take care of her. So that's really what got me started towards real estate. I was looking for ways to build wealth, and I had met a couple that were doing high-end flips, and I had seen the wealth that could be created in real estate. And that's what kind of led me towards a path of getting educated on, okay, so how do you do this thing? And join an educational network. Um, and started learning and started practicing. We bought our first property, then our second and our third, and then our fourth and our fifth. And by the time we did five, smaller multifamily BRRRRs, it was time to scale. And that's when I got into the bigger apartment buildings.
Nice, nice. That's a lot of that is very parallel to my own story, right? Where you recognize, hey, I need to do something about this. So good on you for taking action. Um, let's talk about mindset. Let's dive right into this. So I'm interested in hearing how you feel mindset plays a role in real estate investing, and and then let's talk also about misconceptions. So
Mhm.
mindset and misconceptions. How misconceptions about real estate investing, especially as it relates to women? What are the industry myths that people need to use their head to overcome? Right?
Yeah, that's great. Um, it was very common for me to be on the job side of our projects, and my husband is, the CEO of the construction company. We would be working together doing the renovation projects. I was buying these really, really rundown old homes, and we were adding massive value to them with like fourplex conversions plus, full permitted rentals. Um, and it would be very often we would be on a job site and all the subcontractors would just head over to him and start asking questions. And he would always look back at me and be like, she's the like boss here. So any decisions we need to make, where things are going and measurements and like that, go talk to her. We've had a few issues where he had to step in because people could just be outright disrespectful. Like I'm not talking to a woman. Like and like it's just moments like that, which it's baffling that that still exists nowadays. The other misconception is if you have kids and if you're a woman, you can't do this. And as I just mentioned, my kids were tiny when I started. Like they were 6 months old, a year and a half. My son was still breastfeeding when I got started in real estate. So the misconception that if you're a woman and you're a mother and you can't do this, it's just not true. It's very possible to do the things. And yes, there's sacrifices, and yes, there's, priorities and commitments and the back and forth and the dance that we all have to do, but it's possible. And it's not only possible, it's so life-changing because like we have changed the generational line in my family forever, hopefully, as my kids carry it on. We also I love completing that moment that after a few years of investing in real estate, my mom was able to move out on her own, get her own condo. She now has a complete secondary source of income from investing with us. And that was really the original goal of being able to do this. And it does bring wealth and it does bring what it needs to. Obviously, smart investing does. Not all kinds of investing brings the wealth that you need. It's the smart investing. Um, Another misconception about real estate being a quick, turnaround. When I first got started, so many people told me 5 years. 5 years is your number. If you can stay there for 5 years, that's when that's when things start to make sense. And I'd say that was exactly my story about 4.5 years. And I was like, okay, we've got a few properties, we have a little bit of cash flow, but like, where is that real, wealth? And it was around the 5 year mark that we had our first exit and saw some real wealth, rolling in. And we're like, whoa, this works. This is awesome. Let's keep doing this.
That's it. That's it. That's the magic of the BRRRR, right? So it's a good segue into my next question, I guess, is, as we look at the real estate market, it seems so many fluctuations. It's a roller coaster ride. How do you stay ahead of the trends? How do you keep positive and navigate through the changes that are in the environment we invest in?
Yeah, honestly, we have felt it. Anybody that's in real estate and has been the last 2 years has been quite challenging for a lot of us. Um, Here's what I now looking back in hindsight, this is my first recession down market being a full-time real estate investor. So it's been so interesting to navigate this piece. I mean, we all know what's coming at some point. We are told that, but you don't know until you experience it. So in hindsight, here's what I've learned, and here's what we've done right, and what we've done wrong. So what we've done right is we invest in long-term buy and hold, pretty stable assets, which to me that equals multifamily. I feel like people that were, investors that were focused on condos, single family homes, even the smaller ones, I still own a triplex and it does not perform in this market. The bigger the buildings, the better they're doing right now. So I had, the inclination that that was going to be the case, but I didn't know until we were fully experiencing this. Um, Second thing is equity investors. So we have brought on, and 95% of our investors are equity investors. They buy into the buildings, they have ownership, and we do profit shares. So this has kept us afloat in times where cash flow may have been tight, in times where interest rates went up and we weren't able to return capital as quickly as we wanted to, even though we've done extremely well under the circumstances. And I'm so grateful for that. That's allowed us to stay afloat because we're in an ownership model as opposed to high interest debts. And then the third thing that we learned was things change. There's so much outside of our control that can happen. We had to face CMHC rule changes. We had to face interest rates. We had to face, government policies. There was just so much that went on in the short period of time that we were running projects. And the attitude there is there's always going to be a solution. The more you can stay calm and focused and high level in what you're doing, the more you're able to approach it with a solution mindset, as opposed to getting into a process of feeling really fearful or stressed or overwhelmed. Ask for help. Like, we have such beautiful community of resources. I'm not scared to call everybody that I know. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, what do I do here? Do you know anybody? Have you gone through this before? Lean into other people that are doing the work and that are doing what you're doing, and ask for help and ask for direction and seek those that are doing the things and mentors and coaches, which have been a massive, advantage to me during this time.
Yeah, it's so true what you're saying. This community is amazing. The people are so supportive, kind, and willing to help each other. It's unlike any other business where it's so much dog eat dog world out there, but inside real estating, the people are supportive and all willing to help each other. And I love that. Just a great community. For somebody that's just starting out in real estate investing, what would be your top three pieces of advice to help make sure they get on the right path?
Yeah, great question. Understand that real estate is a business. I think a lot of real estate investors come into real estate assuming they're going to invest their money and it's going to be a passive investment. That is not the case unless you're investing with a company like myself, like Steve, like others that are doing it full time, and you are able to, learn what the model is and invest your funds into a specific projects, and you have your projected returns. In that case, it's pretty passive for you. You do have your due diligence, but other than that, we're carrying on, we're doing all the work, we're doing profit shares with you. But if you are doing it on your own and you want to be, the managing partner and you want to acquire a property, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And you should be approaching it as I'm opening a business, I'm opening a real estate business, and understand what is implied in that. That's very important. Know that real estate, again, is not short term. Give yourself at least a 5-year headway to invest and see and allow the market to do what it's going to do and bring back your returns. Get to the bottom of what your lifestyle goals are. There's so many different strategies in real estate. There's so many different ways to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. If you can be very clear what your goals are, I'll give you an example. I'll often have conversations with investors where they will say something to me like, my goal is to retire and buy 5 properties in the next 2 years and manage them. Like, those are opposing goals. If you're hoping to retire, but yet you're starting a brand new business that you have a lot of work to put into, a lot of time to learn, a lot of experience to go through, those are opposing things. Do you actually want to retire, or do you mean you want to do something? You want to retire from 9 to 5 and you want to open a business and go to work again? So be very clear what your lifestyle goals are, so you can find the right strategies that work for you with the right timelines, with the right partnerships.
Yeah, beautiful advice. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here's the twist for you. So you're a mother of 2 and you're a real estate investor. Have you found any transferable skills from parenthood to real estate that you'd like to share?
A lot of patience, a lot of patience, a lot of multitasking that happens. More importantly, I think in the way that I approach real estate and what drew me to real estate in the first place, it's a people's business. You're really dealing with so many different components of it, from like the investors that are coming in to partner with us, to the different team members that we have, mortgage brokers, lawyers, insurance companies, and they're all people. Like, even though you're dealing with companies, you're really building relationships, and it makes a massive difference in how you run your business. And obviously, there's your tenants and your property management, and that's all people. So, coming in from a place of care and love and value add and win-win has been one of the biggest things that have allowed me to succeed in what I'm doing, is coming to every transaction and every conversation with a win-win in mind. And I think that's very transferable from motherhood, because it's such a beautiful relationship with your kids, where you're your own person, but yet you're in this relationship with them as a mother. And there's like a constant like dance of like, I love you, you love me back, but I have boundaries and you have boundaries. And there's you like fostering this win-win environment at home. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. You answered that beautifully. Um, are there any lessons from motherhood that's influenced your approach to investing?
Kids will be who they will be. As much as we want to control them or influence their path, like it's more about uncovering who they are, letting them uncover who they are, and then guiding them, and being there to problem solve or give a crying shoulder, or fulfill some of the immediate needs that they have. I think with real estate is similar. Again, this market has taught us we have no control over a lot of factors here. So it's not really my job to try to predict everything that's going to happen. Like, when people, which they often do, ask me, what do you think about interest rates? My answer is always the same, like, I'm reading the same information you are online. Like, it's not in my control. I don't even want to play the game of trying to guess what interest rates do, because it's so outside of my control. The same HC rule changes, it caught me by surprise significantly. I think it caught everybody by surprise. It's just, how do you start a project, you're planning the next 2 years on a specific exit, and then something completely outside of your control changes, and you're like, so it's really
Yeah.
giving the real estate and the market, its flexibility to do what it's going to do. And you're really there to guide and care and influence the best that you can and make it a win-win for everybody, but without being so rigidly, into one situation or another. Being highly adaptable is important in real estate. So is in motherhood.
I've learned the definition of pivot so many different ways since starting the real estate. Okay, so near and dear to my heart now. This is gonna ask you some questions about podcasting, because as a fellow podcast host, I'm interested in learning from you. So, as a podcast host yourself, what one topic or issue you're passionate about discussing, and what that you feel isn't getting enough attention in the real estate world? What is one?
Hmm. That's a great question. Um, Not getting enough attention in the real estate world. I'd say, what does it look like to partner, and what questions to be asking, right? I think it's been a lot of challenges with partnerships over the last couple of years, and investors, well-intended investors, putting their trust in well-intended active investors, and things, going sideways. So what could have been done differently, from both sides to ensure, a better result potentially? I think that's a question, a good conversation to be having right now, not from a judgmental place, but from a learning perspective of like, I want to learn too. I, like to learn from others what went wrong and what could have been done differently so that I avoid some pitfalls. Yeah.
Magic. You're right on point. I agree, I couldn't agree more. I think that needs to be something that we all learn out of. Right? So much to learn. What tips do you have for staying authentic and connecting with an audience, whether it be through public speaking or podcasting? What advice have you got to share?
I have to be honest, I continue to do work in that area because, it takes, it puts me out of my comfort zone when I get on a stage, or when I'm like public speaking, or even in podcasts or social media. So it's very easy to put on masks, and unintentionally sometimes. Like I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just like you kind of put on a persona, and you need to get out there, and you have an agenda in mind. So it's an ongoing learning for me on how to stay authentic and true with who I really am, and it's been a process of getting to know myself, really. That's really the only way that I can really show up as myself is if I get to really know who I am. And a lot of people are scared to do that journey inside and be like, huh, what's in there? So I've been doing quite a bit of work in the last, I'd say, few months, is really focused on doing journeys inside and getting to know who I am and all the different layers, and healing some past, traumas and things that have been, triggering me and influencing my life in different ways, so that I can be more of who I am and find that out, and then hopefully be able to express it more as well.
I think that when I saw you speaking on the stage, you were truly authentic. I listened to everything you said, and it really moved me. There was a point in time when you were part of a panel in the last Expand conference, and a question came from the audience that I think was where the question had something to do with losing money in the last interest rate cycle, and somebody who was looking to try and understand what you would do or what the panel would do, and your response to that had to do with what a great learning opportunity, because we learn from our mistakes, and you're very authentic, and you conveyed to me at the very least a very personal response in this that was something that connected with me right off. So anyhow,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm going to come to my last question now. We all have reasons to do what we do, and you've alluded to this, but I'd love to understand what it is that's moving Adriana. Why do you do what you do? Why is Adriana following this real estate investing path, and to what end? What does success look like for you? And how has that evolved through time?
Yeah, I was just gonna start with that. It has changed many times over, which is beautiful. Like that's really what the journey is. Today's success means to me health and joy and peace and love and just holding really dear to these values is what success is. Abundance. Um, it goes beyond the physical and material things that we've been able to accomplish. I'm very thankful for the journey because it got me to where it got me, and we often end up learning what's beyond the material things once you're there, and you're like, okay, this is awesome, and there's just more and more, in here. So that's what success is to me today. What moves me is um, creation. I love creating. I love, blessing people with the gifts that I have. And this is what real estate really, and this is why raising capital specifically it is really dear to me, because of the relationship I get to build and the lives I get to change by and impact by, doing what I do and focusing on what I do, and the returns I get to give my investors whenever it's payout day to investors is one of my most joyful days that I guess is it's just so exciting to me.
That's beautiful too. I think that your investors are very fortunate.
Hmm.
Adriana, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and learning more about your journey. I look forward to connecting with you many more times in the future. For any of those that are out there that are listening, if they wanted to get in touch with you, what are the recommendations? What's the best way to reach you? And maybe they're interested in investing.
Yeah, absolutely. So please find me on socials, Facebook and Instagram, Adriana Ostapenko. You can also check out my website, aceproperties.com. Feel free to reach out anytime and love to have a call.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Adriana.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time.